reserved character in front of the cameras, unless you're giving him shit, mostly anyway. But he should, on paper, do a good job. I think it's important that he gets the right people in place in the UK, and how well he knows people in the UK and what his structures are going to be like. I'm unsure. His remit has got to be to win a trophy, and I think he's got to be the big one. I don't think he will accept anything less than that. So it's exciting from that point of view that will be his expectation and his decision for the squad. But it'll have to. I'm just going to suck it and see. Really, I'm not going to pan the guy because I haven't got grounds to do so. But I don't know. I'm just unsure at the minute, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, it's weird. Most people are very, very excited about this, but we both seem to have like a hint of...
Yeah, look, I think it's an ambitious move. I think it's a strong step after McNamara, who was a very divisive head coach, and it certainly seems to have unified the vast majority of English rugby league fans, us two notwithstanding. But let's just see. That's what I think anyway.
I really hope that he works.
Absolutely,
the magic is working.
Of course.
But I think everything needs to be put into his tenure and not worrying necessarily about who's going to be coaching England in 10 years' time and whether they were influenced by Wayne Bennett at all. So the tweets and messages we've got. Tim Griffiths said, "What a great forward-thinking move by the RFL. Words I never thought I'd write." Chris Macy at Medway Bronco 88 said, "Fantastic. Can take our playing and coaching to the next level. RFL need to use his experience wisely." Alan Paul Walker said, "If you want a part-time coach, why not a part-time super coach? Can't argue with the quality." Dar Garner said, "Bennett is a RL brains trust. Instructions from an Aussie holds more water than upped northern accent. People just seem to follow and kowtow to him and his knowledge."
Yeah, whether or not that's a good thing, I don't know.
But then in this follow-up message, he showed sort of all the trophies he'd won, basically.
No, he does. Yeah, that's the thing. Look, on paper, it's fantastic.
That's why you bow down to him, I guess.
Let's see. Let's see.
And then Rich Wilkinson said, "Just wanted to comment on Bennett being coach for England. Mark, you said Bennett couldn't really be head coach based in Oz. That hasn't stopped the previous coach." I think the difference is Bennett's a head coach in Australia. McNamara was a understudy at the Roosters. I'm guessing and he was already the England coach when he took on that role. I'm guessing there was certain freedoms into well, I know there was, because he came over here during Origin times. He missed spells with them to be in England, or had mini get-togethers with the players over there. But anyway, we're going to see if it works out, and like sort of Alan says, he's a super coach. But he said that hasn't stopped the previous coach. I think if the correct assistants are put in place, this is not an issue yet. That I agree strongly on that.
Yeah, but that's the key now.
Yes,
that's the key.
It is. Who's going to support him? Yeah. Where we currently lack as a national side is not in ability or power, but in the mental edge and the know-how on winning the biggest games. Bennett is simply the king of this. His record at club, Origin and internationally is second to none, and let's not forget he was a big part of the Kiwis winning the World Cup. You could never question his integrity or commitment to any role he has taken. As an RL fan, I genuinely feel whilst Bennett is in charge, England can win every time we cross the whitewash. The RFL constantly get a kicking from everybody in the game. They need a massive slap on the back for showing some fucking ambition.
Yeah, fair play. And I agree with that. It is an ambitious appointment, and it's a coup for English Rugby League to get this name in. Now let's give him all the tools he needs to succeed.
And I'm sure once the Brisbane season ends and the international season starts, he'll be fully committed on the task at hand. And I hope that the period he gets to do that in the Four Nations, not at the expense of the Four Nations, because we've got the players, we've got the capabilities to do well in that tournament, but it gives them a bedding in period under that for the 12 months time, because that's when, like you say, that's the big one in a way.
Yeah.
But this topic was so important, so significant in rugby league that not only we talked about it for about 20 minutes, but it was also what you got your poll stuck into this week.
Do you know what? Actually, as we finished recording the show, I was wondering where I was going to put my poll this week. I had a number of options open to me, but this one presented itself perfectly on Tuesday morning. So my poll this week was: will England Rugby League win either the Four Nations or the World Cup under Wayne Bennett? So silverware during Wayne Bennett's tenure. And the majority of people think that they will do. 65% 65% of people said yes, and 35% of respondents said no. So you and I both fall into that 35%, I would suggest, Mark.
No, I think we can.
Oh, no, we can, but I said will. Wording of these things.
Yeah.
Do you think we will?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I think the World Cup is a realistic target. I think the Four Nations is a realistic target. Just because I've got my reservations about how it's going to work
doesn't mean you don't think it'll pay off.
In the build up to it. Doesn't mean that when it all gets delivered as a product on the pitch, it's not going to be what we want it to be.
Okay.
I think yeah, I voted yes.
Very good, okay. We got some feedback as well. Matt Eltringham, Wally Frogmore, who's one of our Aussie listeners, got in touch and said, I honestly believe they could push for either when you look at who he has to work with. And then Dave Cantrell at Dr. Hideous got in touch. I voted yes, because if enough people on the interweb vote for something, it always happens. Always. I like Dave.
You really would as well.
Yeah.
In real life, I'm sure.
Would we be getting the special editions of Tom's poll ready? See, it just works for everything. Okay, so with expressions, moving on, with expressions of interest to host the 2021 World Cup starting to come in, Rugby League, the RLIF CEO David Collier has confirmed that the number of nations participating in the World Cup will rise from 14 to 16. The growth of Rugby League internationally is reflected in the expansion of the tournament to 4 pools of 4, Collier said. The strength of the 2017 World Cup qualifiers to date across the continents has shown a significant increase in the playing standard and quality, and the newly adopted international calendar will ensure that the teams will have a minimum of 15 months prior to the 2021 event to stake their claim. In addition, the 2021 Women's World Cup, which will run at the same time, will be increased to 6 nations. So that's positive signs, isn't it?
Both positive signs, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's the stuff that we hear about all the time on the likes of League Culture, on their podcast, or you see on stories every month in the magazines, every week on the Twitter. So yeah, I think it's a positive move for the sport. Hopefully, it will be a strong competition still.
Yes. I agree. Okay, Hull KR forward and Scotland international Adam Walker has been charged with 2 offences of attempting to engage in sexual activity with a child. The 24-year-old maintains his innocence, it should be pointed out. In a statement, Hull KR said, Hull Kingston Rovers have been made aware by the player and his legal representative of charges brought against him by West Yorkshire Police. Adam continues to maintain his innocence and expects to be exonerated once the matter is before the courts. The matter is under constant review by the club, and until such time as the situation changes, the club will continue to support Adam and he will remain available for selection. Given that there are now pending criminal proceedings before the court, it would be wholly inappropriate for the club to comment further. It's a tricky one to talk about with us.
Yeah, I think it'd be difficult for us to comment much further.
Yeah. I sincerely hope he hasn't done this because there's a child's safety at stake. But what I would say from my experience of working with vulnerable children in previous careers is that for them to bring charges, they have to meet a lot of criteria. So, innocent until proven guilty, and I sincerely hope that nothing has happened for this kid's sake. But it's tricky to comment any further, really, isn't it?
Yeah, you said everything we can say.
Fair play. Okay. Moving on, 8 Queensland emerging Origin players have been excluded from the Origin selection for 12 months after breaking curfew at a recent Brisbane weekend camp. Valentine Holmes and Cameron Munster have now been joined in the doghouse by Anthony Milford, Jared Wallace, Ben Hunt, Dylan Napper, Edric Lee and Chris Grebsmule. New Maroons coach Kevin Walters said, obviously I'm disappointed by what's happened. They know they've made a poor decision. They've got quite upset about it. We're trying to protect the brand of Queensland Rugby League and state of origin. I just thought that if these players couldn't understand the clear instructions that were given to them, it probably wasn't time for them to be involved. It's a great stance.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big stance when you look at some of the names. I mean, Cameron Munster's just been given a whopping deal at Melbourne. And Valentine Holmes is obviously...
He's the great hope at Cronulla, isn't he?
Yeah, and being targeted by other clubs to be taking on big money deals. He is a star of the future.
Yeah.
And then
Ben Hunt is a star of now.
Are already stars of the present. They got to the... they are the halfbacks in waiting for that side once the 2 legendary incumbents were to hang the boots up.
Yeah.
But
I think it's a strong move that shows these young men that they're not above the law as professional athletes, and I applaud it, to be perfectly honest. Maybe it's a touch over the top, but
Good.
Let's just, let them earn it. Let it not be a right for them.
The behaviour of a large amount of rugby league professionals has been over a line for some time, and while some of these people, all they're guilty of is breaking a curfew and staying out drinking later than they were supposed to, it still points to that level of disrespect for the position that they're in, for just, well, I wouldn't do it. I would, if I was at work and I got told you can't come into work after going for some beers at lunch, I wouldn't go for some beers at lunch.
Yeah.
I don't do. And that's the way you should live your professional life.
Yeah.
This was at a camp. It wasn't part of a normal weekend out, even though what they did wasn't terrible in the grand scheme of things, just staying out later than they were told to. You'd say that's a grown-up person's right to. Well, part of their professional working environment
is to look after themselves, and part of that is doing
what they should do in terms of their boss's instructions.
Yeah, I agree. I think
there's a level of respect that needs to be rebuilt amongst a large proportion of.
Plus, I think it's a good, strong move for Kevin Walters to be able to make, filling Mal Meninga's shoes. I think it does his position as head coach no harm either.
As long as he finds ways to sort of work with these guys, not to be part of the team setup, but to make sure that they don't become the next serial offender in this kind of behaviour, and it doesn't escalate and become worse along the lines of a Carney or a Pierce situation.
Well, the thing is, it will separate the wheat from the chaff, because if, say, 3 or 4 of these lads are inclined to go down that road, then that will piss up their chances of representing Queensland. But if the other 3 or 4 of these lads take it as, right, it's time to knuckle down and really show what I'm worth, then they'll be the diamonds that will come through and
they'll be the ones that Kevin Walters will still go and talk to after games, and still go and visit with, and still encourage and help and teach them what they need to do to be an Origin player.
Absolutely.
The next story we're going to talk about just quickly, because it came through today, didn't it, whilst we were putting the show together. Chris Leatherbarrow, the rugby league referee who died last November, it's been confirmed by the coroner that it was suicide was the cause of death, which is
another tragic loss to the sport.
It's an awful thing to be the case, that someone feels that's their only way to go.
Yeah, it is.
It's horrible.
Absolutely.
So, it just reconfirms our condolences to his family and friends.
Yeah, and the importance of charities like State of Mind.
Yeah.
And people, being comfortable talking about things like mental health.
Definitely.
Okay. Let's have some positivity before we end the news section then, Mark.
It's just been
we've just taken it downwards. It's been a slog, hasn't it, really? But it's just been one of those weeks. But go on, you do it.
No, go on.
Okay, and finally, rugby league journalist Gary Carter has been discharged from hospital and now will be continuing his rehabilitation from home. Gary was left with severe head injuries and later had a cardiac arrest after an attack outside a London pub on the day before England's game with New Zealand last November. In a post on Facebook, he said, "Firstly, let me thank everyone who came to see me in London and at Salford Royal, friends, colleagues who I count as friends, and the entire rugby league community for everything you've done over the past 3 months. Family were outstanding, but most of all, thank you to my amazing wife Gemma for her constant love and support over what must have been frankly a hellacious time for her. The rumours are true. I was discharged from hospital yesterday, but still need to get better with physio stuff." Gary's attacker, James Flanagan, who's 35 and from Kentish Town in North London, has been jailed for 2 years this week after pleading guilty to grievous bodily harm. So wonderful news for the whole Carter family, really, considering the grave condition he was in sort of in November, where it was touch and go whether or not he would make it. And
definitely,
it's wonderful to see that he's
skull, serious brain damage, vicious attack, and he's progressing, which is great. He sent out a funny tweet, really, for when he sort of was back at home. What have I missed in the last 3 months?
Yeah, it was good. It's good, and it's really heartwarming to see.
It definitely. I mean, just saying it now, people can't see our faces, but talking about it has made us smile, because it is a nice story for us to be able to talk about, and we're really pleased for Gary and Gemma that the recovery is on its way.
Absolutely. Right, that's news from around the world of rugby league. Then let's take a look back at round 1 of Super League. Okay, round 1 of Super League kicked off on a wet and windy Thursday night down at Headingley Mark, and as I alluded to earlier, I was lucky enough to be able to attend the first game of the season, which was really exciting, and it was a really good game on the pitch. I quite enjoyed